Dear brothers and sisters, it's been 1 week already. In that 1 week, we experience many things. As a conscious being, we are entitled to experience of what? As you are listening to me right now, you're experiencing the sound. As you look at me, you experience the sight, and so on. If you look at very carefully into the matter, you see that everything is all about experiencing. And the formula for the experience is that the knowing plus external object equals experience. Experience is just like a neutral mental faculty. It just experiences. But the nature of mentality doesn't stop right there. And that's why the nature granted us an egotism. When you hear, when you see, when you smell, taste, touch, sensations, then egotism comes into being. You become accord and you become discord. When something you hear, you see, you sense that fit your categories, you become accord. And something that did not fit your categories, you become discord. Accord and discord is simply just thought. For the accord, it rises the pleasant sensations, and the pleasant sensation has a nature to go in accordance with the egotism, and that's why it feels good, and then we ride on it, and we lost our identities to it without knowing it. But when we discord something, unpleasant feeling arise. And the unpleasant goes against with the egotism, and therefore we react. Most of them, accord and discord, is part of the mind. The mind that gives rise to discord and the accord. Can we stay just at the level of experience? I guess it's very hard because of the definition of egotism is that the conditioning of which what we wanted, of which what we're looking forward upon others, of which we want to superimpose upon others, and therefore problem starts. Is there something wrong with the problem? I don't think so, because problems are part of the mind. When you have a pleasant feeling like love, compassion, you don't complain. But when you have unpleasant feelings, then we complain, and that is unfair. Everybody shares equally the mind, in which all kind of qualities that exists in the mind. So if one is hoping for this doesn't rise in the mind, then it's impossible, completely impossible, unless that one's become enlightened. I mean, highly enlightened, then it will be okay. Otherwise, we're gonna be somewhere in the middle of something, whether good or bad. Let me share with you my experience in the past couple of days. I was some kind of distress, as Daniel shared a little bit earlier today too, and I was some kind of distress too. And it doesn't feel good at all, for which what I have said earlier, that because of I have some certain standard and put that certain standard upon some others, and when others don't perform, don't function as the way I wanted, then I become suffering. And that's what I did. I suffered for a couple of days. And just a couple minutes ago, love came back to me. And I feel that all of you are part of me and I'm part of you. There's no separation. And it feels good. But overall, we should not ignore either the mental qualities of such. We pay attention to the wholesome one, and we pay attention to the unwholesome one, and understand that this is part of the mind. And when we understand that, we don't get attached to it. When we don't get attached to it, we come back to the equanimity. Earlier today, during the sitting meditation, I gained some concentration and it feels so good. And the greedy mind wanted to come back, to go into that state again. But as soon as the desire comes, then there is no more equanimity anymore. The mind becomes disturbed. Desire is part of the mind too. The inherent karma which everyone here possess, where do they come from? From your own mind. How did it happen? Conditioning. The mind becomes conditioned due to like and dislike. And like and dislike is something that we need to pay attention to. Can we stay with our like and dislike? Only when we understand the totality of the mind. The mental functioning, the mental activities. The mental functioning means the neutrality of mental faculties, which is like mindfulness, like intention, like attention. Such a thing is kind of neutral because of those mental faculties. They do exist in wholesome people as well as unwholesome people. The difference is that after that intention, either you raise a thought of wholesome or unwholesome, then the difference is right there. A monk might raise thought of wholesome, so that wholesomeness steers him go toward to a wholesome action. But a thief will have an intention of unwholesome, and that unwholesomeness steers him to the wrong direction. The difference is right there. Good thing is that in the consciousness, we are armed with discernment, with wisdom. So, right at the knowing, then we use the wisdom to discern that this is good, this is bad, and what should be done and what should not be done. As a conscious being like us here, the experience is very important. And because of the karma done by us from the past, we cannot fix it. So whatever comes, can we deal with it? We can use the progressive steps. When a bad karma comes, we can use a soft noting, mental soft noting, saying experience. Say that experience, mental soft noting, experience in the mind. Or we can go a little bit more elaborate, saying that experience the greed or experienced hatred. In such, it will bring us back. It will bring us back to at least halfway of calmness, because if we step away from being identified to the object, we don't get lost ourselves to the object. And during those couple of days, I kept reminding myself, experience, experience, experience. And that's what I did. And it helped me a lot in refraining myself to overreact something which is, trivial. It's very funny that sometimes, when we look back our mistakes and we see that we overreact something that's, for nothing, but we still react to it. But when we have a moment of stepping out of this scenario, then we feel, holy shoot, I should not react to such and such. So back to experience. It's not much when we look back, into ourselves that what's going on. There are only six sense-based plus, 6 external objects, and the knowing that gives rise to the experience. Is it something else did that? No, that's it, completely, that's it. I don't know, maybe in a million years later that the 7th sense that added in. But right now, that's all we have, that's all we are. And one important thing is that we study to do away with the binding, to find happiness. Like I said earlier, that when I feel that you are part of me and I'm part of you, I feel so good. And I just want to hug everyone, but I can't. No matter what, the good, the bad, the beauty, the ugly, they'll come to the day we all will perish. And that's why that the moment that left in us, we should treasure it, we should make it worthy instead of, being miserable. We should be happy. Like I said some times ago too, that this feels much better than trying to get enlightened. I don't know. So take it as Zen Master Thay said, happiness is available. Please help yourself. Okay, today Daniel's going to share some of his experience about his trip and his distress. Please, Daniel, I'm putting you on spot.
Thank you, Thay. Before I say anything, I want to ask a question. Did you prevent from overreacting by focusing on your breath or some other methods, or how did you do it?
Okay, good one. It doesn't matter what method. Someone might go take a shower, as long as it works. So it doesn't matter that you go back to your primary object, which is the breath, or the rise and fall of your abdomens, or the sensation, or mental noting, or you say going back to your Buddha nature, knowing. It doesn't matter, as long as the method works for you. That counts.
Yeah, I can tell my little story. So I went to Galveston, Texas. Has anyone here been there? So anyway, I grew up in Galveston, and I went back there for my dad's burial and to take care of a lot of family business. It was very stressful for me. I was sleeping about 4 hours a night, and I was working somewhere between 10 to 14 hours a day, doing lots of things. So I guess I was kind of sleep deprived. Anyway, we were in this condo there. It's a high-rise condo on the beach. It's incredibly beautiful, the view of the ocean, the Gulf of Mexico and the beach. Galveston has like a 20-mile long beach. So the front of the condo is incredibly beautiful, high-rise condo. The back is just a balcony for taking out the garbage or something. So one day I was taking out the garbage, and there's a railing along the back, and there was a bird that was sitting on the railing. So I've noticed in my life that sometimes we live in such an artificial existence, but sometimes we can see something that I think you could call an epiphany, where you see something, and if you take the time to really look at it, there can be a message there. So again, there was this railing on the back, and I was taking out the trash, and there was a bird there. And the bird was some kind of a seagull or a pigeon. And Thay was just incredibly old, just like the oldest thing I've ever seen. It had very white feathers, but I don't think they were naturally white. They looked very tattered, just extremely on its last legs. So it was perched on top of that railing, and I walked by it. And of course, a bird, normally, when you get close to it, it's going to fly away, right? Birds don't let you get that close. This bird, I didn't do it, but it would have let me touch the bird if I tried to. It was the bird, it was looking right at me, and I was looking right at the bird for minutes, and it was just so tired and so old and so worn out, and I could just tell it wasn't afraid, but it was just so old. It was the oldest thing I ever saw. So anyway, I continued on, and I threw out the trash. And then I came back in a few minutes, and the bird was still there, exactly the same. And it wasn't going to move. It was just incapable of moving. And I just thought about the suffering and the inevitable old age that we're all subjected to, and that was going to happen to me. And I thought about my dad, who recently passed away, and how frail he was. He was a little like that bird that was just helpless. And then 10 minutes later, I came back out again to do some other task, and the bird wasn't there. So anyway, it's a little hard to describe. You would have had to see the bird, but it really hit me very strongly in just the connection when I was looking in the eyes of that creature. So that's my little story.
Can we ask questions about this story?
Yeah, I'd like that.
Did your dad pass on while you were away?
Yes, he did. So my dad passed on in January, and the last contact with him was an email that he sent me on a Saturday morning. And then during the next 2 days at some point, he passed away, apparently at peace, at total peace. And we don't really know what happened. He had had a heart condition with atrial fibrillation before, but that was under treatment and seemed okay. So it was a mystery why he passed away. But yes, he was totally alone in that same condo when he passed away. I was not there. I wish I had been.
I grew up superstitious, in a very superstitious place. So my initial thought, especially when you said the bird was tattered and old, and just like you said it was very old, and you said almost immediately after that you said just like your dad was old.
Yeah.
My first reaction, maybe it's from my superstitious background, is that was your way of your dad saying goodbye to you.
It might have been.
That's what I
Joseph.
feel.
Yeah. So during the trip, I really did say goodbye to Dad. We had the burial ceremony, and actually I became rather emotional at the ceremony because I had so many mixed feelings about my dad. It's all very complicated. I love my dad, but in some ways he could be very difficult. Anyway, I did say goodbye, and maybe the bird was connected to that.
I believe it. I'm not saying your dad came back as a bird.
Right.
It could have been like a message. Just a messenger, just to say goodbye in a way. Sometimes it happens in dreams.
It was like a message. You're right, Joseph.
That's what I feel.
Yeah, it was a very powerful message.
It could have been mind-to-mind transmission, that your dad's mind transmits, his mind to the birds, and through the birds that you sensed of what it was could have been.
I sensed what could happen, and I really felt for the bird, and I could see myself there eventually getting old, and I already am old. Why are you getting old? That's ridiculous.
We are on the verge of getting. It doesn't matter. Even a new infant was born, and then one day old. He gets 1 day old already. So as soon as one get reborn, one gets old already. So it's just a matter of the process. And in many Pure temples, sometimes they they keep the remains of the loved one in there, and they have pictures on the altars and saying that this person born on this year, died on this year. And I've seen that someone died as 6 months old, someone dies while still in the womb, and someone passed away with 120 years old, over 100 years old. So the line in between, fits in for everyone. Like I said earlier, that as a human being, we are subject to such. And it's just a matter of the attitude, how to take it, that's all. You accept it, it's okay. But let's say that you open yourself to welcome it, then it's a different mental attitude. You see that? You accept it because you have no choice, so you accept it. But that, accept has some resistance. But when you open yourself to it, then there is no resistance. And from there you feel good to die.
The bird had no fear. The bird had accepted its condition. I could really tell, but it was just so tired. But it accepted that it was on its last legs. There was no resistance in the way.
That was the message.
That was the message, Joseph.
Marcus, I want to hear from you. Please.
Oh. So.
I want to
okay.
hear too, Marcus.
Okay.
You've come here for 10 years. You never shared anything.
Okay. So for me, it's well, so Lynn went to. I went with Lynn earlier this year to meditation retreat. We haven't, she's really excited, and pandemic's kind of over, so the flights were still.
I can't quite hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'll speak up. So the flights were still kind of expensive, but she really wanted to go back to Vietnam and do, back to our homeland, because we normally go every other year, and then we travel, within the U.S., that kind of stuff. So with the pandemic mostly over, the flights are still very expensive to Asia. In America, they were fairly reasonable. But anyways, we went back, and she wanted to take some time off from work, so she took a leave of absence. And when we were there, I was only going to go for 3 weeks and then come back, because I have commitments to my family to help take care of. My father's already passed away, so it's just my mom now. And so I said, okay, I won't do anything drastic until my mom passed away, because that's my mom's concern. And it's funny, I was the middle child, where back in the day, it's like I didn't cause any waves. I did good in school, didn't cause any problems, and that's the way my mom and dad liked it. So I got a lot of freedom to do whatever I wanted. But my mom and dad would always, adore the oldest and adore the youngest, pay attention to them. But now that my mom's older, she's seeing me, being the one that's not that problematic, and I take care of, the things from my mom and dad, the financial stuff. And so it puts my mom at ease. So, but I let her know that, I would not do anything drastic until her time passes. So anyway, so Lynn is in Vietnam. Her mom is older. Her father passed away a few years ago. But she really likes it there, and she, doesn't know when or if she wants to come back. And so my dilemma, all the teachings we have, right? We have attachment and all the stuff I learned, so I'm processing that. And that's why you see me kind of quiet, because I just let it think and let it process. And so my thing is, like monastics already remind me, there would be 2 people you will encounter in your life. The one you love the most, you have attachment to, and then the one you hate the most.
Attached to.
Yes, and they remind us that all the time. And so that, I think, is, so I'm processing that too, and so maybe Lynn, if we're married, but maybe Lynn was someone who I cared for in the previous life. But to me, it's more like a platonic, could be a child, a sister, something, because that's how we care for each other, and not the same way that most couples would. We had that attraction at the beginning, but then it's more like platonic now. So I have to accept that. And so I have to let her, the ego side of me says, hey, I would like to, get old and have someone to share the experiences with. But I should be very enthusiastic that she's, wants to go monastic route. To me, I like, the practicing or Dharma, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I like it. But for her, she is very, not just quiet, so she really loves so it's different from me. So for me as a practitioner, and the stuff that I've read and hear all the time, they say, just being a good practitioner, following the practices, is just like being 1,000 years of arahat. So that to me is good enough. But for her, she wants to, like Thay and amongst monastics she sees here, and the nuns, is not just to practice for herself and learn it, but to help, salvation of others. Yes, and that would be to me pretty tough. I don't know if I could do that. I work as a manager, so I can see that kind of stuff. But that's the route that she'd like to go. So to me, I kind of, accepted it. So that's the kind of process I see. I don't speak a lot. I learn to, as they say, speak only when you need to. But the nice thing is, and I joke, Lynn, so we have a good practice with each other, even though we're not, we don't see each other that often. I still speak to her via FaceTime, or in Vietnam it's Zalo. And I remind her, because she's, we call it, very jealous of me, that everywhere I go and every monk I've met or monastic has told me that I him. So I'm very, it's funny, the Vietnamese words would be more like cute and dễ chịu, dễ thương. And she's never had someone told her that. She's very jealous. She's like, that's not fair. You get that told by every monastic you encounter. And so, but So when I last spoke to her too, I remind her, yay jiu, yay to. There's a lot of things she was like, oh, I really like it here. I have to remind her, that's the important part. So practicing and being aware of the others and not just ourselves. So that's what I practice, and that's what because I see that's what she wants to do. And so if I really value her and our attachment and our time, is that you have to be willing to let go. Non-attachment. So happy for her if that's the route that she wants to go.
Great.
So hopefully, the little that I do share, that that it was to me the big share that I wanted to offer.
Yes. That's a very positive notion there.
Marcus?
Yeah.
Are you saying that Lynn is thinking of becoming a nun? Is that correct?
Yes. Right now, it's a meditation retreat. She really enjoys it, and really, it's really positive for her. Because that's something she'd always wanted to consider. And so she still has yet to shave her head while she's there. So I watch each video in anticipation. So I can see them all the time. And so she has not done it yet, but all the other individuals that have gone with her have shaved their head. Sometimes they will, as they call it, len nui, so they'll go up the hill. But sometime eventually they will go down the hill. But there's a good portion, I think half the women have stayed. So I would not know for sure. But she's been there 5 months, so since
5
January.
months?
Since January. We went in January.
What tradition?
I don't know, it's Linh Quý Pháp Ấn. It's in Vietnam. In Bảo Lam. I don't know if it's quite Zen, but they have a lot of...
What kind of rope do they wear?
Mayana, so the same...
Mahayana.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
I just know if it's... I don't know for sure if it's Zen or not, but they do, I can show you after, maybe you can tell, inform me which one it really is.
Great. Fantastic.
I already feel peaceful for what she's doing.
Oh, yeah.
Are you content with her? If what happened if she really go forth?
Yes, because I know, because when she went to pharmacy school, same thing. I had to go down, she was an Oregonian, so I went down there. And so this time she's going to go to Vietnam, if she does go that route. But she'd like to do what you and other monastics here, she'd like to come back to America and offer her assistance or her services in America. So.
I've known a nun sister. She has been nun for maybe 15 years, and she wants to renounce everything, but her position won't let her. She's head of the pharmaceutical research, working on computer a lot, and she managed a group of people around the world. She wanted to quit the job, but maybe because she was so good that they pay almost double when she decided to quit. But then she have a thought that maybe, money is too much, that you keep working, and then you can use that money to support the monastery and such. So I don't know if she is still doing it now or so. But the thing I wanted to say is that happiness comes from within, which is the mind. When one understands what mind is, one becomes happy, the external experience, it doesn't matter. One is still happy to function in the society as a wife, as a mother, completely okay in the family. So, I don't object, whoever wants to become a nun or a monk, so go into monastic order. But again, if that would take for one to be happy, then just go for it. Enter monastic orders, one still has to study oneself, which is the mind. So, either cases, in mundane life, people like us here, all you do is that you pay attention, you be mindful of what's going on, and that is the practice. So, I wanted you to be out there so you can support me. if all of us become monks, then who's going to support us? So, it's just a joke.
Yeah, the only part I had at the we call it my ego side was that I would have liked to do it together, that we retire and do it together. But if the path for her is now, then I understand, right? And I'm okay with that.
Great, fantastic. Let go, let go, let go. Not been attached.
From there to there to there, I'm not sure like you. It looks like something related to relationships, attachments. What he's talking about, like attachment, and I was experiencing the same thing, and I realized, oh, it's my attachment, and it's not easy, experience. It's not easy, but I was also listening to audio, and it says the past is over and done. You just have to live in the present moment.
Yeah.
And that was about what we are discussing, but it's interesting, the same topic of relationship, and we are experiencing. Maybe you can say something, but I have one more thing to ask or share.
Okay, go ahead.
The other question is becoming a nun or renouncing everything in order not to suffer because of our desires or whatever comes with those things, right? What about not becoming a nun and enjoying the life to the fullest without attachment,
There we go.
without
Exactly.
being angry or illusion, and also listening that our thoughts create our realities. So when our thoughts are, whatever we think, we actually manifest if we feel together in life. So why not align both of it and not attach? I don't know how easy that path is.
First of all, when you realize that you get attached and such, that's the beginning of the intelligence, which is the beginning of open door for freedom. And of course that you don't have to become a monk, because of a monk is a becoming. Can you see that? You are a becoming. You are a becoming. So we all are becomings in some sort of. So it doesn't matter that who you are or what you are. It doesn't matter as long as you're free. You're free from suffering. You're free from everything. if I have to say about observing, the precepts, I think that I'm the most committed monk. I'm very sinful because of one of the first 10 precepts for monk is that you're not allowed to play music, and I play piano. And then I compose a song. But the thing is that if you put that into perspective, let's say that all of famous Zen, Japanese Zens, they took drinking tea as an art. Then the art of drinking tea and the art of playing piano, they are all the same. Again, but if I don't have opportunity to play piano, I'm okay, because of I don't attach to such. Same thing. You stay where you are, whatever you have, without attachment, then that is freedom. Practicing. It's right there. You don't need to be anything. You don't have to be. You don't have to become of anything, because you are a becoming already. What title that you can get away of? Let's say that you're worthless. Let's say that. Then the title that you earn is that a worthless one. You still a becoming. See that everyone is in position of becoming. It's just a different classifications. That's all. So you shouldn't concern about maybe that I have to do this, to do that in order to be happy, in order to be free. No, you are free now as you understand. When one understands that freedom is here and now, then one helps oneself. So
It's the mind playing games.
mind playing games, yes. Anything at all, anything else, please.
Me?
Either one.
Oh, okay. So you playing music like the piano, it doesn't. See, for me, when you were saying your story, I run a lot, and running is like meditation to me. So it's not for a purpose. Well, you running stuff, but it's more about being in the woods or on the trail by myself, running, and just kind of doing a lot of. It's like meditation, like focus on what has happened, done, like in my past, when I was young, all the way through this whole process of life. But for me, it's not a pleasure thing. It's more of a, I don't know if I want to say this correctly. It's like you playing music is not a pleasure. It's like for you, maybe meditation to you makes you who you are as a person, instead of suffering or being a pleasure type of mindset. I stopped running for a long period of time because of my Achilles. And I remember I went back, it's Lake Young's guys down the road here, just really down the road. So last month, I was not really trained to run that course, but I did it anyways. And I felt so at peace, and I loved every second of it. My right thigh was burning, my left Achilles was torn up, and I didn't care. So it just felt peaceful though, and it felt right. So when you were telling your story about the piano, for you playing music is like meditation, I think, to you. Would you agree with that? Or?
Yes. Well, so the definition of concentration is that you forget yourself in doing the things that you wanted. That is the process. That is a definition of concentration. And then when I play, sometimes I completely forget myself, and it's all about piano and the projection of the sound that I made it.
Okay.
So there's no me in there. So again, but nothing is wrong with that.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Okay. The word I was looking for was reflection. I do a tremendous amount of reflection when I run.
But let's say that somehow that you don't have an opportunity to run again. You're gonna miss it. You're gonna be miserable without running. Then that is the question.
Okay. And the answer right now for me is yes.
then there is the attachment. There is an attachment to it. Yes.
So there's a balance.
So do whatever one likes to do, but as long as the attitude of attachment is not there, then perfectly okay. Yeah. That's the art of living. How you live. That's the art. And we monks here, we strive, so hard to waking up at 3:30, 3:40 in the morning, just for that purpose. Yeah. But our approach is different, right? That's all. That's all. But the goal is still the same. So So as long as you're mindful of what you're doing, as long as you're happy, as long as you understand the entity of who you are, more precisely, the entity of the mind, and that's it. His part.
My sharing may seem more trivial, but I think it's fundamental to our practice and what we're talking about here. I finally did it. I went all the way around this room during walking meditation without my thoughts grabbing my attention completely. I was pretty much, I would say 98% attention on each footstep. All from there, that door, all the way back to that door. And then there was some excitement when I got back to that door. And I maintained my attention, my awareness with attention, all the way up to that area, the front door. And that's where you rang the bell. And then I lost, and then at that point, my thoughts grabbed my attention again. Also because I need to go to the restroom and I get distracted by that.
It's just a matter of sooner, if you can remember it sooner, the sooner you remember the earlier that you go back to your primary object. That's all. It's just a matter of practicing. It gets into a habit of remembering, going back to your primary object.
Yeah, and I'm practicing so that my thoughts will not grab me anymore as much.
Understanding thoughts, understand. You try to understand what thought is, what thinking is, and how thinking processes and such. That would be more, proper into the nature of the mind.
I feel like if I can create distance for my thoughts, so that my thoughts don't grab me as much, as frequently, for as long as they have always been my whole life, then I will have that sense of liberation from my monkey chatter. It's like jumping out of it's like being outside of a monkey cage instead of being inside the monkey cage.
Yes,
and looking
yes.
at the monkey cage from outside.
Yes.
Sometimes the monkeys are pleasant, sometimes they're violent, but I'm not inside the monkey cage anymore during those moments when I'm not lost in my thoughts.
Yes. Great.
That's my practice, is to gain that.
Great. Fantastic. Daniel?
Yeah, as you just mentioned, I hope you're able to keep playing piano, and that privilege is not taken away ever. You create really beautiful music, and yes, you can always justify it as a form of meditation, because it really is. I also play piano.
That's what I was saying.
It really is. So you can always justify. And what you said about running, I agree with 100%. I used to be a very good runner. and it's very powerful for developing your mind, in my opinion. When I ran, I just focused 100% on my body. I didn't really have any other thought process going on. I would really just be concentrating on how my muscles and my body and posture and everything were going. And just one other brief thing about that, you may know there's a group of monks in a monastery in Japan called the Marathon Monks, and they run a marathon every day. Did you hear about this before?
No.
Yeah, they run up a mountain and they come down every day. They run a marathon.
I can't do that.
And they do it. It's really for their practice, of course.
Yeah, and just like with your name, I'm sorry, his name?
Joseph.
Joseph?
Yeah.
He was mentioning a few weeks ago when he was driving, sometimes his focus is not driving anymore. So when he made that comment a few weeks back, it reminded me of my running. I could run like 10 miles without even realizing I hit 10 miles and just focus on, whatever's going on. But when I do regain focus of what's going on, then I start feeling problems. So, I gotta slow down, I gotta eat, I gotta drink water, whatever that is. So, but yeah. I do have a quick story.
Yes, please.
My wife and I recently, I don't know the name of the bird, like a little finch type bird, and it created a nest in one of our planter bases or whatever out in the front porch. And it had 4 eggs, I think, in there. We didn't notice in the beginning, but we saw them flying in there, and my wife saw the nest with the eggs in there. So we always gotta try to give it space and everything. And finally, the birds hatched. But the reason I mentioned sort of the other birds, sort of about your father. So 2 weeks ago on a Saturday, my lower back was really bad. It was really sore, but there were some honey-do lists I had to get done. And I did them. I grabbed a can of Sprite, which I normally don't do. I sat on the front porch, and I don't know if it was the mama bird or the papa bird, but it had a worm. And basically couldn't get to it because I was sitting on the front porch. And I think it took about a good minute before the bird finally went the back way into to the flower bed, whatever, and went to and fed the chicks with the worm. Came back out, perched himself in the front. We made eye contact, and basically, I think you could tell I was hurting, I was worn out, and basically, it was like standing out front, looking out towards the road, and like at that point. Because every time my wife and I would walk by, they would just fly away immediately, like they're saying, no need to get close to you. But this time, it didn't move. Maybe there was some form of trust there at the very end. But the next day, the chicks left, so I think they were just tired like I was. So. But it was just kind of a cool feeling that the bird looked at me, we made eye contact, and basically said, okay, you're fine. And just basically just looked out towards the road. I got up and walked away. It never left. It just stayed there. So, and then my wife said, like the next day or two, they flew away. So, but it took a whole cycle for them to maybe trust us. That trust. This is a neat little story.
Thank you.
I think it's another epiphany, like I said before. When you just see something like that, and like Joseph said, it gives you a message.
May we all do what we wanted to do passionately, but without attachment. Because when one put a passion into what one wanted to do, it becomes the joy. And that's what we wanted, the quality of joy of what, of which innate in us, inherently in us. But again, with our attachment, then everything will be okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.